Hello and welcome to the All About X-Men Comics podcast, where you'll find recaps and reviews of all the most recent X-Men comics, as well as previews for upcoming issues. Please keep in mind this will include spoilers and adult language. I'm host Scorpio Moon, proud believer that Gold Balls was right, and hosting with me is...
Johnny Alpha, and everybody knows Gold Balls was right. I mean, what are you even going to ask at this point?
Okay, so, we're going to start this week with Guardians of the Galaxy number 13, the end of the Trial of Jean Grey crossover. Obviously not an X-Men book, but it's got our 05, so I thought I'd give it the lead-off spot this week. I want to start with a bit of a negative. It felt like kind of an epilogue to an event that never really got started. But on the hugely positive side, and Johnny, you called this one, and I totally read it wrong. The end of the previous issue, I thought Jean looked forlorn, like, sigh, you're right, I'm a monster. But no, it was more like, you're right, I'm a monster. So fucking with me was a really bad idea.
I would have liked to have seen more, but Gladiator got a beating, you know, and it was nice, and I really like this crazy, like, energetic, you know, complete psychic energy pink Jean Grey when she's, like, fully got her stuff in tune in this. I mean, it's a really kind of neat look for her. I really dug that they're really pulling new things out for the characters in this. I mean, this one issue kind of really evolved the book in a completely different way than I thought going maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
I was kind of worried for a time that I was a little upset that the Trial of Jean Grey was going to end in a non-X-Men book, but that didn't really seem to matter at all.
No, I mean, honestly, this was more of an X-Men book than Guardians. I mean, like, the Guardians only got a couple panels. Totally Star-Lord. I mean, when you do the recap, we're gonna find out why he's totally the man in his couple little panels that he does get.
Before we get to all that, Jean points out some obvious shit, like that the Phoenix is a force of nature, so doing a witch hunt on one teenage girl, that's not gonna stop it. You know, I'd have just as much luck stopping a wave or a volcano. And that, of course, Gladiator's vendetta is kind of just his own anger at being so limp-dick to stop the Phoenix in the past at any point in time. So yeah, from there, you know, fuck the Phoenix, beware Jean Grey. She's not only accessing her telekinetics and telepathy fully and at the same time, but combining them to give you that powered-up, pink, psionic, crazy energy, like her own version of, you know, Phoenix flames and just shit all over the place. So she and Gladiator fly full force at each other, knock each other down, and I mean, that's basically our fight. But this young Jean Grey just stood toe-to-toe with a bad Superman ripoff. Don't let that fall lightly on you.
Right, and I mean, like, as far as, like, people that are just ridiculously powered go in the Marvel Universe, Gladiator's way up there. I mean, like, honestly, there are a few people that maybe actually be able to fight Superman if, like, they did a retarded crossover like that, and Gladiator would be one of them that could actually hold his own for a little bit against Clark. So, I mean, like, we're talking about a tough character, even though he's got a horrible mohawk.
And that kind of brings me back around to my first point now, though. After a few pages of this, it's all just kind of epilogue, basically. Some of the Guardians consider the fact that even though Star-Lord's badass dad has kind of saved them from reprisals just on reputation, they have still made another enemy. And Angela, she don't talk too much, but she seems pretty damn unhappy. And then we get to the end of the book, and Cyclops announces that he's leaving to go join his dad in an adventure with him, which in the context of this almost feels a little awkward, because he didn't exactly bond with Corsair. If anything, that whole conversation was where Corsair was a little over-honest about the whole, hate to break it to you, kid, but I already had this conversation with other you. You know, that wasn't exactly bonding, but maybe that's also kind of why he has to go with him, because they didn't do any real father-son shit.
I think that, like the last issue of Uncanny, I think that they really just combed over a bunch of stuff that is going to get revisited, like flashbacks to this event, and then Cyclops is just going to be coming up. I think that there's going to be little stuff that, like, Bendis didn't write in this that's going to be appearing in that title, I think.
Yeah, and that's what smart writing does. It always sets things up for the future. Like something we'll probably address later at some point, that whole idea of Battle of the Atom comes out of an editorial meeting that sets the tone of the book for like a year to come. It's not an accident or like a, hey, cool, the writer thought to revisit Battle of the Atom in some of these books. Like, no, that is all like 100% on purpose. And it's been a while since I read the interviews, but I'm pretty sure when the Battle of the Atom was first coming out, they said a bunch of shit along the lines of, this is us setting the table for the rest of the X-Men, blah, 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 blah. And it probably sounded like all, like, preachy and overhyped. But there is a lot of truth in advertising to that. Like, they're not fucking around. Like, that's all there for a reason. And Trial of Jean Grey is another kind of stepping stone thing, too, maybe.
Oh, right. I mean, it really kind of drives home where the all new X-Men are going to be going in the near future with character development, especially this issue with Scott leaving and the way X-23 kind of felt about that. And I see them really playing up the relationship between young Beast and Jean in the near future, which should be odd, but whatever, man. You know, it's all new, which was like the big celebration of this. I mean, they really just drove home the fact that this is all new, you know, with her pink power and all that. It's all new X-Men. So I really dug the shit out of that.
Well, they almost did go a little far with it. I mean, Jean actually says the title of that out loud. She says, "This is all new."
Right.
So that was maybe a little groan-worthy for me, but it is also kind of a funny trope, like announce the title, even though this is technically Guardians, not all new. But anyway, Kitty also has a quote talking about how they let us go as she's leaning over the chair. The whole thing felt really Star Warsy again, you know, echoing the Princess Leia line. And, you know, I just love to point out anything Star Warsy related now, because the whole Disney thing. But we get to the end, and everyone flirts with everyone. I mean, and they had throughout this issue in this series. Because, sure, it's the X-Men. But Kitty, I think, didn't really come out of this looking very good. She was kind of damsel in distressy the whole time. Like, oh no, my students are gone. Oh, thank you, Star-Lord, you saved me. Oh, here's your number. I'll call you maybe. Maybe we'll bone. You're like,
Well, he kind of looks like older Bobby Drake anyways, so I mean, like, he's totally her style. And, yeah, I thought it was kind of cute, the little thing between them. My favorite was Iceman and Gamora, though, where he keeps trying to, like, I can cook you breakfast. She's just like, quit trying to charm me, boy. I'm not trying. It just comes out of me, lady. I'm just like, damn it, Iceman. And then Groot's trying to get it on with some trees. And then, some raccoons come running out of the woods, and Rocket gets all embarrassed, and he just, like, starts yelling at him, telling him to put some pants on. So there was some, like, really kind of clever, cute little parts at the end of this issue. I thought it was kind of a nice little. I mean, this event, I don't even know if it should have been as long as it was, but I don't know. I didn't mind reading it once it got going, and it didn't really take off and do too much, but I really like the stage that it's set with itself. So, I mean, I really got no gripes with this whatsoever.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed the hell out of it, even though it did kind of feel like we were two snails sitting on the back of a turtle shell, and I look over to you, Johnny, like, hold on, here we go!
Yeah, but I mean, that's the way they're kind of going with these things now. I mean, they really kind of want to get back to old style storytelling and, you know, not just having everything be so splash pagey and over the top actiony. And, like, I don't know, sometimes it's a really good thing. You know, or sometimes you just get an issue like Silver Surfer #1, where it's just a bunch of people standing around talking with really nice art. So, I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but, I mean, like, in this it worked, in my opinion, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah, me too. I think it worked, too. I'm just kind of poking fun at how many people like to say Bendis just writes characters eating breakfast or something like that. But, yeah, no, it's good, clean fun. And once again, like, there's so much Battle of the Atom in this. Like, you can see how Jean is going to become Zorn Jean and have to wear that helmet to control her power. And, like, maybe some of that Beast relation is why, also, she's on the side of the Brotherhood later, because, you know, they're both on the same team, right?
Yeah, they end up becoming, like, the evils in the Battle of the Atom future, so that's got to be kind of a fun little journey, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man, and maybe this is why you don't see Cyclops in Battle of the Atom, because he's still in space. Or dead, like Wolverine, who's the soon-to-be dead. Which, I mean, technically, I guess they can't kill Wolverine in issue 12 of his new series if he's supposed to die in Battle of the Atom feature after Quentin Quire fills the school or something. But yeah, we're getting off topic. So anyway, the issue ends with Jean alone, just like kneeling on the ground and just seething with this, you know, this pink power. The power of the pink that she'll later have to wear the helmet to control or whatever. And with that, the arc ends.
Yeah, and it's a rather foreboding end, but I mean, like, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing at this point, you know what I mean? Because, like, I think it's a little too soon with these things to make her try to break completely bad. So, like I said, it's going to be a neat little journey, and I really like the way it's starting off, so.
So do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm going to go thumbs up with this. Like I said, I really like just like the lampshade. It hung on the entire idea of where all new X-Men is going to be going. But I'm going to go ahead and just say get the trade paperback for this crossover. This is not really something that you needed to get issue to issue. And, it's kind of going to be one of those things that's better to just get the trade and read it once. Read it all at once.
I'm going to go with thumbs up. I think it did everything that it tried to do. And I think if you were reading it all along and you were happy with it, this is one more issue that's going to continue it, so you really know what you're getting going into it. So I'll go buy it. I'm usually not as big on the whole, you've got to have the good guy punch the bad guy and all that in the comics. But Jean versus Gladiator was almost like price of admission for me alone right there. And now we've got a lot of endings in this episode of the All About X-Men Comics podcast. There's the end of that arc, and we also end an arc in Amazing X-Men number 5, which, even from the very cover, I can imagine people saying, oh, look how cool and fun, it's pirates. And I'm just like, look, all the X-Men are pirates, that's so neat. And I'm just like, oh, this is so stupid already.
I hear somebody saying that, like, even if I don't know them, I'm going to slap them on the back of the head at the store, man. Go buy some Magic the Gathering cards. You don't even belong in the comics section if you think that, fool. Go on.
Yeah, I'm going to roll up the comic and hit you with it, which will be the most useful thing that I've done with an issue of Amazing X-Men so far. So we actually start at the Stargate on the Jean Grey School side, with Little Red Bamfs trying to destroy it while being fought by X-Men and Little Blue Bamfs.
We had the Blood Bamfs versus the Crypt Bamfs. It was very, very gang related, this issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of, social metaphor and message in this book. So, after a couple quick scenes of that, we get back into the pirate shit. And honestly, at this point, I was already tempted to start just, skimming the pages. So we go on. It's fighting. X-Men versus undead pirates. Wolverine gets stabbed. The Bamfs in the school start merging together and then all go through the portal to heaven-ish, purgatory, wherever exactly they are, where Archangels of Heaven are apparently on their way to finally fight the pirates. But they all, Super Bamf, Nightcrawler, and Azazel back to Earth, because apparently this is Nightcrawler's genius plan and sacrifice to come back to life with Azazel, so Azazel can't terrorize Heaven. What? I guess the merged Bamfs, they become Nightcrawler's new earthly body, and the deal we see is that in return for their help, the thing that turned the red ones apparently blue is that Nightcrawler offered them his soul.
Yeah, it really made fuck all a sense to me, man. I was just like, dude, really? It was beyond tarded, you know what I mean? And the narration, God, dude, I hate when he tries to make some kind of badass battle narration with I brought my friends into this fight, so it's only fair that I save them, and it's just like, why did you bring them to this fight? You know what I mean? Why didn't you just have the Bamfs build the Stargate and you do this by yourself? Because honestly, X-Men haven't done anything. They've just gotten their asses kicked a bunch of times by crappy pirates. This arc was the height of stupidity as far as anything that I've read in the last year. Marvel now is it's really on fire. There's so many good things coming out of it. This is not one of them. Honestly, this should get its ass kicked back to the 90s. I don't even think Rob Liefeld would have did something this fucking stupid, dude.
No, man, it's that same joke with Paul Cornell again, where it's you have your characters be really stupid and then highlight how they did something stupid, and then we're supposed to go, yeah, that was totally worth it. I guess there was something to the story with Nightcrawler taking a page out of his dad's book, having offspring of some kind and manipulating them.
And we got to see that, after death, Charlie Xavier became the biggest little bitch pussy ever, man. No, Nightcrawler, don't go. We got Archangels coming to fight. You gotta stay here. It's really? Is X gonna be, really trying to say that? You've earned heaven. It's come on, man. What? That was just some of the worst writing I probably ever read of the character. Charles Xavier is a stickler for the rules, But I would have never thought I'd have read him saying some garbage like they were having him say in this issue.
Yeah, I still think the only real good, post AVX reference of Xavier was in X-Men Legacy 300. That's one of the only places he's really been any good with anyone trying to write him, dead and afterwards or whatever. And yeah, sticking to what's left of the plot here, I guess the idea that Nightcrawler loses his soul in the deal is something, because now apparently maybe he can't get back to heaven if he has no soul. And again, it kind of ties into the whole, let's have your character be stupid that admit they're stupid. Like, he's like, oh man, I squandered my chance in heaven. I sure feel bad about that now. All of a sudden. Well, maybe there's something into the story there, but I mean, other than that, it's just okay. Arc over.
Yeah, if they wanted to bring him back and not have a soul, they could have just had Layla Miller bring him back to life from X Factor, the old X Factor. It's like that's basically her mutant power, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Why have this whole entire retarded Stargate to Heaven adventure when they could have just had another mutant do the exact same thing?
Yeah,
I guess they wouldn't have been able to stop Azazel with stupid blood magic. I mean, like, that was just so rushed. You know what I mean? It didn't make any sense really the way they explained it. You know? I guess, like, you really have to know about Azazel and his blood magic, which I don't think probably many people actually do.
But apparently, it's stronger than Archangels of Heaven. They can't do the trick. You can't trust God to take on Azazel.
Well, if they took their sweet time, I mean, it's like calling the damn cops in certain cities, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we'll be there in, like, 20 minutes. It's like, people are getting shot right now. Garbage, man. And the angels are finally going to get there at the end of this one. I mean, like, we're talking about some time went down, you know, where there should be like an early warning system in heaven. And a damn pirate ship full of fucking ghost pirates is causing shit with the happy residents of heaven that have earned their rest, you know? It's just horrible writing all the way around, man. And then, like, Xavier, like, oh, don't trust the X-Men, angels are coming, you know? It's like, is that your motto now, huh, Charlie? These guys are just completely built up to be, like, heroes. Like, yeah, you guys are good, but don't get your hands dirty. We got angels now.
You know, I think what we're gonna find out is that this issue was actually, like, kind of a backways DC Marvel crossover. And it's actually Lex Luthor. He's involved in it. Lex Luthor's involved in a heaven land scheme plot. See, he's manipulating God's resources of archangels to make them show up later for a 911 archangel call to an area, so that the property values will go down there, and then Lex Luthor can buy them at a discount and take over heaven.
I think that's way too good of writing for this book.
Okay, so on that note, let's just verdict it, man. Thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Dude, thumbs down. Reading this issue was as painful as having somebody put out a forest fire with a screwdriver on my face. And skip it. This book is just garbage.
Yeah, thumbs down here. I don't know what's worse, wondering if this book had a point, or getting to the point and finding out it's even dumber than you thought. So I'm just 100% going to go skip it. Just wait till Jason Aaron's done. He's got an issue. There's a guest writer for an issue. And next thing you know, there's going to be a whole new creative team taking over. Maybe come back to Amazing X-Men then. And we will cover that. But in the meantime, let's move on to more books from this week. We also have all new X Factor number 5. So Gambit's naked and Danger is a robot. And that's our opening to all new X Factor. Now, Danger is another character, I think kind of like Marrow over in X-Force, who has, like, a little bit of history, but there's not a lot really set in stone for her as far as character development.
Man, like, they really just brought her out to really start the whole crusade that Professor X is a dick, basically, is all she really served a purpose for. He knew that she was alive the entire time, but he kept her just wedged down under the school, you know what I mean? And that was, like, one of the really first instances where people started looking at him like, you know, Professor X, you know, you're kind of a dick sometimes. So, I mean, I really think that that's kind of the only purpose she's served up until now.
So that's a great reason to bring her in, because, you know, some of the stories involving these characters have related that. You know, like Gambit was very heavily involved in some of Xavier's last days, so you've got him in this book. So then you bring in Danger, and I think for those same reasons, they're kind of like, okay, we can take this character and we can give them a little bit more of a story. And they actually do, like, David just goes ahead and kind of hits the reset button on her. He explains that Nils' tinkering messed with Danger's head, and it kind of, like, reverts her back to the whole, like, I don't understand humanity robot trope, that stereotype. So they're kind of just starting over with her still, too, anyway. She knows that Gambit kissing her, which she calls organic contact, awoke something in her, and now she seems to want more organic contact. Wink, wink.
Right, which probably leads to my favorite scene of the book, where we find out that from now on in this title, Quicksilver, Pietro, is going to be played by Jeff Anderson in character of Randall Graves, where he's sitting around the breakfast table with Polaris, reading a book talking about how Service's real name was Spot, and some of his great lines with Gambit, which include, "Do you want her? Are you insane? She's a machine." Well, that's a step up from a blow-up doll, isn't it? I mean, like, that is so Randall Graves, bro.
Meanwhile, what else is going on this lovely morning in Serval Industries? Let's see. Oh, the Serval guy is fucking Linda, the girl that works for him. Isn't that swell? And cheating on his wife to do it. And Danger knows, because she's on to, like, everyone already. She can detect Harrison Snow, the Serval guy's DNA on Linda. She can tell that Quicksilver's been running around, because his heart rate is up, so obviously he's been sneaking in and out of somewhere. And when X-Factor was called to come and look fancy and impressive at a business meeting, she reads that the other executive isn't human at all, but is actually the Magus. A powerful technocrat from the Technarchy. You know, think the techno-organic virus people, like Warlock's people. Not Adam Space Warlock, but like Douglock Warlock.
Yeah, New Mutants Warlock, basically, is what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, think to those people. And yes, this does mean that Warlock will also show up, and he's mysteriously working with his dad, even though they have kind of like a Sith relationship going on, where like the son's supposed to kill the father. And after they vanish, who are they going to ask for help but Cypher, Doug Ramsey, the other half of the former Douglock.
Which is awesome, because, dude, I love the New Mutants. I was really sad when the Dad Amnet run ended, like a year or two ago. So, I mean, like, it's really kind of cool to see a couple of these characters pop back up. I'll take what I can get. So, Warlock, he's kind of a little shady right now, but I think that, like, he's, like, in his position that Danger was kind of in. And I hate to say it, but this book hit me like that issue of X-Men. I really liked it, but it seemed like it was just got over too fast. You know, it was just, like, so awesome that it was done, and I just wanted more at the end of it. So that's kind of the only gripe I have with it personally.
Yeah, kind of one of those Chinese food issues where you're hungry again half an hour later.
Right. But I mean, like, there was a lot to ingest here. You really kind of get to see the how skeezy the Serval Industry guy is. And I mean, like, the more I read him, the more... Did you ever watch Frisky Dingo? It's by the same guy that did Archer. He really reminds me of Xander Cruz, like the businessman, Tony Stark type guy from the cartoon Frisky Dingo. And, like, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's just kind of a skeeze, you know what I mean? Like I said, I think they're trying to make him look too dirty, so I really think that, like, he's actually just, you know, kind of just a skeeze. He's not really evil, you know?
Yeah, it's almost kind of red herring-ish. It's misdirection. Like, oh, look at how bad this guy is. Meanwhile, there's probably something else going on that you're not paying as much attention to. And I think it's also something that Peter David is just trying to do with the character where, I mean, he lampshaded the whole, look how I'm evil in the very beginning, where he's kind of trying to say that it's not always that simple, good, or evil, or whatever. Like, it's, you know, it's shades of gray. There's a lot of twisting and turning in the morality, and it's all in kind of how you read it.
Yeah, I see that a lot, too.
But I think, once again, I think this book has still kept the momentum up. You got this whole thing where everyone keeps trying to tell Danger she's wrong, even though she's totally right on everything she's reading. And then she notices that the guy's a robot, and then boom, she's like immediately fighting him, and it's carnage everywhere. Like, they really just snap, snap, snap. Like, they keep clicking. They're not wasting any time with this book at all.
Oh, yeah, the robot battle was awesome, man. Like, yeah, she just like, I'm sick of people telling me I'm wrong, and she just punches through his gut, and, like, you just see gears and shit flying. And then, like, yeah, he punches her out of a window, and, like, he just blows up like Godzilla big, and then, like, she gets bigger, and that was a very well-detailed, really cool-looking fight that we got. So, I mean, like, there was a lot to this issue. It just kind of seemed like it went by fast.
And there's also got to be, at some point in the future, like an anger management group therapy meeting for Serval between Polaris and Danger.
Yeah, man, honestly, like, I think Peter David's really sad that, like, M was stolen from him, so, like, he had to, like, find two chicks to try to make as sassy and bitchy as M was in the last X Factor book.
Okay, so do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm gonna go thumbs up, dude. This book is just, it's probably one of the best X things going right now, in my opinion. And I'm still gonna say buy it, man. Like, the art is wonderful in it. It's got some really great laughs. It's really setting the stage for what's probably gonna be one of the best X books, like the last incarnation of X Factor. So you don't want to miss this.
I'm going to go thumbs up. I especially love how they're taking all this X Factory goodness into it and mixing it with strong hints of New Mutants and X-Men Legacy. But on this one particular issue, I am going to go with skip it. I think you can just kind of catch like the rest of the arc later together. But like if I do say skip it, I'll definitely say do not miss the trade if you're going to do that. So getting into books that are completely ending, first up is Marvel Knights X-Men number 5. So I guess we've gone through all these issues of rogue shaming, so we could get to this issue where they want to compare young, out-of-control Darla to young Rogue. The X-Men are surrounded by mad memories brought to life by a mutant out of control on drugs, but she also seems to be pretty happily giving into it. Anyway, one memory is of Xavier. He gets to, come back to life via memory and ride a motorbike and give lots of speeches and motivate them to use good memories so they can imagine other X-Men and use them to fight all the other bad memories.
Right, it was Professor X played by Kevin Costner.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, Kevin Costner's always giving speeches in movies, man,
Oh, okay, yeah. And riding motorbikes?
Yeah, like in Bull Durham and a couple movies, like he rode motorcycles, so.
Okay, right on. And they also reference the Inferno event, which is cool, I guess.
That's old school, and it was probably one of the better crossovers of all time, so yeah.
And because it's convenient end of battle time, Darla starts to lose control over these rampaging memories, and they even start killing each other. I guess as the drug is wearing off, it's just all kind of powering down. Crystal, the other girl, finally gets close enough to talk some sense into her, and even admits that she accidentally forced her mom to kill herself through her power of suggestion, and talks her down from her crazy. Afterwards, she even mind wipes the media into thinking there was a small natural disaster, and not mutants trashing the town. I guess they tied all the pieces together here. It wasn't terrible as far as just being a mutant story, and how it all just kind of works out at the end, and mutants coming of age in kind of crazy ways.
It was a great end, man. And when I got done with this, I realized, man, this thing should have been 3 issues long. They really drug it out too long, and I think that's what the problem was with it. If this would have just been like maybe a 3-issue, or like even like how we said with Night of the Living Deadpool, maybe an original graphic novel, they'd have did that, they'd actually gotten a little bit better of an artist to do it. But that notwithstanding, I think that if this was just a tad shorter, because I mean, like honestly, we had like 3 issues of just, random nostalgia popping out of people's heads, you know what I mean? It got long-winded, and like there was even a lot of that in this book. I think if they like cut a lot of that fat out, this would have been like a really kind of neat little adventure, you know what I mean? And I think it still kind of is once you look at it as a whole, a 5-issue thing. It's really gonna be kind of a cool book to sit down and read all at once, you know what I mean? But issue to issue, it really was taxing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I had that marked down in my notes to comment on too. I think it was just too long. Cut out an issue or two in the middle and you would have had a much better story overall. I'm still a little confused on Jasper, if he was always ghostly or always a memory, and how many times exactly this guy has died.
Well, there was the real one that the Duck Dynasty guy killed, but like for some reason there was like a version of him that was always kind of scaring her. I guess it was probably a memory of something that happened between the two of them that like kind of lingered with her, but she was able to like have the Duck Dynasty guy kill that version too, which was kind of neat, I guess. And like nothing really kind of made sense in this arc, you know what I mean? It just was kind of like they did this just to do it. It's not like I don't think any of this is going to have repercussions with anything X-Men in the future. I don't think we'll ever see any of these new characters again, so.
Yeah, they always give the Marvel Knights those freedom. And I'll actually kind of commend them for at least, for the most part, like 75% kind of sticking to like within like what's true about the X-Men and what works for the X-Men. Some of the Wolverine Rogue shit was a little overboard, but for the most part, like when they mentioned like the pissing match between Wolverine and Cyclops and the healing factor and stuff like that, like they still kept it a little more X-Men-y, I think, so you could enjoy it without going too far out there. But what the fuck was with the afterword, man?
I didn't actually read it, man. I just was happy that the damn fucking story was over.
Dude, he puts down this afterword at the end of the book where he basically apologizes for it. He apologizes for it.
Guys, I didn't mean to do this. They forced me. Like, dude, Joe Quesada had a gun to my head, and he was like, write it, man, write it now. And I was just like, I don't want to write it, Joe.
Yeah, seriously, I mean, like, the guy's just like, yeah, I was out of my league. They called me up to do this X-Men thing, and I'm used to just writing my Gorilla book over at Oni or whatever. Like, he's like, yeah, they called me up too fast, and it kind of came on so quick, and the book has errors, and the book has mistakes. Like, he's making excuses for his comic. Like, I almost felt bad, like, for ragging on it as many times as I did.
It's all your fault, too, dude, I bet you. It's like, those damn fucking... That's all about X-Men guys. It's their fault. Because I don't know who else he could have... I mean, like, I don't check other people's reviews online, so I don't know how bad it was bashed, but all in all, this wasn't... There are worse things out there that came out this week, Origins 2, that make this look like... make this look like Days of Future Past, you know what I mean? Make it look like one of the best X-Men things ever written. So, I mean, Guy, don't take it too hard.
I mean, yeah, there were some mistakes in some of the characterizations, and we ragged on the art a lot, because there's so many times where the art just was not filled in all the way, and we were like, come on, dude. Like really, you can at least, like, sketch in a half smile on that face. You don't have to leave it completely blank. I mean, those complaints aren't without their merit, but it's like, god damn, dude, like, that afterward just depressed me. I don't know.
I'm glad I didn't read it. I'd be bummed out too now. I'd be like, man, poor Guy. You know?
Alright, so try not to take that too much into consideration, though, when you do thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
I was going to do this anyways. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I really liked the way it ended. I thought it came about kind of definitely cliche, definitely predictable, but whatever, man. It was a good little ending to it. And I'm going to say, like, get this maybe in trade paperback. This will be a fun little read. It might be still a little long-winded in that format, but I don't know, man. I think that it'll probably be just good to sit down and read this all in one go. It'll probably be a lot better of a read that way.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. They pulled the story together by the end. You know, all these intertanglements between what Crystal did and what Darla did and the history of how they all relate in this little bitty town. Like, there was enough story that you can see they had enough of a plan. It all comes together. That'll give them a thumbs up on putting together a pretty decent X-Men story. I mean, it didn't live up to the first issue. It didn't live up to what they promised. But I'll go with Get the Trade, because it still is just kind of like a half-decent little X-Men story there. And the art form, well, there are times where it looked like they were kind of slacking. It still has this kind of like quirky, unique little feel to the art that I think if you've got this trade paperback in one of your boxes somewhere, like, you know, there are times where you look back on it and be like, yeah, cool, like, I read that book. Also ending is A+X number 18. Fuck yeah! Ha! Woohoo!
Right. Like, I mean, like, the very end of this issue was probably the best thing probably ever printed in an A+X comic, aside from the Dupe Iron Fist story, I think, in number 7.
Funny you should bring that up, because I think the writer of the Dupe Iron Fist story is the same one who's going to be the fill-in writer for one of the issues of Amazing X-Men after Jason Aaron leaves.
Well, I hope it's as clever as that was, because, I mean, I don't know, it was just pure silly. I mean, it was Iron Fist and the Dupe, like, taking down these drug dealers that were making these pills. It was just, I think I really just liked it because it was two of really obscure characters that I really love slapped together, you know what I mean? And it had kind of this really kind of indie-looking art to it, so I just dug that one. But, I mean, like, A+X, it was a failed experiment. They could have probably did much better with this book if they didn't make it so goddamn silly. I mean, I get that, like, they wanted to keep it humorous, but I mean, like, look at the Deadpool comic. You can have some silly shit and still tell a worthwhile story with it, you know what I mean?
Well, you can tell a worthwhile story if you have enough pages to do it, which usually they don't. I think that's a big part of why it doesn't work. Like, I don't want to read, like, just a couple-page story and be like, oh, yeah, I got so much out of that. In honor of this being the last issue, I did read the snarky intro thing, which I usually just skip because I'm sorry, but fuck those guys. I don't care what stupid joke they have to say about the issue. I'm not reading that crap. But I did read it this time, and they ramble on about it's not being canceled, but it's reaching its natural conclusion. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever, dudes. Like, I believe that. Its natural conclusion should have been at the conference table, with them concluding it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, like, with books like Avengers Arena, I could buy it because there's only so far you could take a book like that. But this book, if they did it right, it could run till, you know, like, it could be like the new What If. And, like, how long did What If run when we were kids, man?
Yeah, dude, like, you could do this shit forever, in theory. But anyway, so Bendis and Nolan are out, and Jim Krueger and Will Slaney are in for the creative team on the Kitty and Vision story. So they couldn't even go out with a bang like they planned, with having Kitty and Vision being written by Bendis, but whatever. I thought those characters didn't have a terrible back and forth. I kind of enjoyed that.
Oh, Jim Krueger's a great writer, man. I love foot soldiers and stuff. So, and like, I really like the kind of old 80s, 90s kind of art that was in this too. Even though like this had to do with Murder World and stuff like that, I don't know. It kind of more fit like a story about characters like Vision and Kitty Pryde than like some kind of hipster art that like usually permeates the pages of A+X.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of with you. I mean, all things that I just said considered, I'm really not too down on this issue, at least especially this first part. The story, so Arcade's computer program, one of his Murder World death programs, comes to life. It gains sentience, and then out of guilt, tries to commit suicide by Avenger. I mean, how many things have to come to life? Like Cerebro, Danger, Murder World.
That's kind of how I felt about it too. But I figured, fuck it, dude. It was like a 7-page little thing that's never going to be brought back up again. So, I mean, like, go ahead and let him run with it, I guess. It's better than Psylocke dying in the 90s with Spider-Man there. And, you know, which, like, how did that make any sense? When did that happen? And why would that happen? That was, you know what I mean? At least this was kind of, like, half-assed clever, you know, even though it was a rip-off of what they did with Danger and shit.
That reminds me of, like, Star Trek The Next Generation, how everything came back to life on that, or how everything came to life on that. It's like, Data's a sentient android, and then the exocomps turn out to be sentient, the holodeck programs become sentient, the fucking ship itself becomes sentient, like, everything comes to life, and, I mean, I don't know, whatever. So, this thing, it captures Kitty and Vision and puts them in, like, a virtual reality thing, because it wants them to kill it, because it feels guilty for being Murder World. But they talk it down, it lets them out of virtual reality, and the end. So yeah, that's not my most exciting thing I ever read, but I think they did do a pretty good job of making it what it was, and with the visual art style fitting what it was. The Cap Psych thing wraps up with them rescuing, I guess you would say it's rescuing the Doombot that was built based on the Skrull research Doom did. And then Cap tries to call a bit of a level-headed truce with Psych, and it seems like actually in pretty good Cap form, at least modern Cap. He tries to give Psych a number for an attorney, suggesting he turn himself in.
Well, I mean, like, it worked for Bucky, you know what I mean? It's kind of worked for a couple people that Cap suggested it to. So, I mean, like, I guess he thought that, like, Scott would just be down, too, and it's just like, nope. Which led to probably my favorite exchange. Like, this should have been, like, what this issue was about, instead of them trying to drag the Cap Psych thing into one more, thing. They should have just did a whole little 7-page thing on Tempest and Doctor Strange, man. And, like, this was completely for people that aren't in the know and I guess don't read X-Men comics, but it really kind of just really hung a lampshade on the fact that, like, Tempest is going to become one of the really big hard hitters of the new, youngsters of the mutant world. Basically, yeah, by having Doctor Strange show up and, like, just explain to her how amazing her powers actually are and actually break down how they work, which in a weird way kind of really spoiled the mystery of what happened to her in the time bubble in the pages of Uncanny. But I'm going to go ahead and let it slide because whatever, man. Because it was a really great exchange, and I really liked that she wanted to fight Doctor Strange. I thought that was pretty gangster of her.
Yeah, man. She's just like, okay, bring it on. She's like, I'm an X-Men now. That's what we do. We have to fight people. So I guess I'm going to fight you. Yeah, man. As soon as I saw Tempest show up, I was like, oh, man, I know Johnny's going to love this shit. It seems kind of pointless to have it be an A+X, but I mean, I'm not going to complain ever to see more of Tempest.
Well, I mean, why it had to be an A+X where they explain that, like, she is actually, like, a really powerful mutant for the new generation and stuff. So I really hope that they start to explain this stuff in, like, the series that she's in, which they kind of have. But, I mean, like, the way that Bendis is writing this all Morning Glory style, he, like, really convolutes everything and hints stuff and then gets back to it a couple issues later. And I really like that. I'm having fun with that writing style. But I think that if he wanted to keep it like that, he should have told Dugan and stuff that, like, not to throw this into this issue, you know what I mean? Because it kind of really spoiled some of the stuff that I think he's going to be trying to pull out in the near future. But I guess he figured, what the hell, nobody reads A+X anyway, so go ahead and write it, guys.
Yeah, man, probably pretty much. Pretty
You guys
much.
are canceled. Go ahead and write in the last issue. Nobody reads the last issue of a canceled series. We're not canceled. We ran our course. Yep, that's what all losers say.
Oh yeah, fucking yeah. Talking about all this type of shit is way more interesting than what else even happened in this issue. Yeah, Psyche can't take yes for an answer and has to fight with Captain America anyway. The Skrull from the beginning shows up and he's all like, sure was stupid of me to assume you mutant Skrulls are here to invade Earth." And then it ends, I guess. But yeah, Tempest, man, I wouldn't be surprised if even maybe she's the reason that the 05 can't go back in time. Like, she's the one who's controlling time, not letting that happen for some reason.
That would be interesting. That would be a cool little thing to pull out about her character, that she's actually in that kind of control without knowing it of the entire bubble, you know? That'd be cool.
And who knows, maybe she's controlling it from the future or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of ways to play that.
Right.
So, okay, let's verdict this son of a bitch. Thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
I'm going to go ahead and give this a thumbs up, man. It was a nice little end to a series that I never cared too much for. And like I said, I really liked the last 3 pages so much that it made me really kind of just like this issue. But, you know, skip it. You know, this book is not good by any stretch of the imagination. It's got some really nice art in it, you know what I mean? But can't recommend people buying stuff just for that.
Man, I'm so torn. Nah, fuck it. I'm not going to give this piece of shit book a thumbs up on its last issue. Thumbs down, because everything in this thing is just so pointless, and anything that is pointful in it is just going to be repeated somewhere else later anyway. But as an X-Men fan, I almost just have to go with buy it, even just for Tempest's little cameo in it. So, thumbs down, but buy it? I've done that before. Anyway, let's go to, let's start the Wolverine section of the episode with Origin 2, number 4, a.k.a. Why I Stopped Reading Comics.
Me too, man. Like, honestly, I was reading when I got my comics and stuff, and, like, I read a couple. I forgot what I read first, and then I got to that one, man, and I finished it, and I just, you know, I just put my stack down, and, like, I gave up for that day. I didn't read another issue until the next day, because that piece of shit just fucking bummed me out so bad. It is just such a cliched, predictable turd in the water. And is it me, or is the art getting worse issue by issue on that thing?
I think it's getting to the point almost where it's like you almost can't recommend it on the art anymore because it's not as giving. I still really like the color combinations that they're pulling off here. I think they work well for the era and well for the kind of feel and tone of it. I really wish they could be used in a better book. But as far as what's going on here, so Wolverine hasn't just been not talking out of stubbornness or just bottling it up. He's just so completely damaged goods that he can't even order food without stammering and then popping his claws in a rage if he forgets his change.
Which was, like, just the stupidest scene I've ever read. Sausages. Like, yeah, we went from the Jungle Book to King Kong to Homeward Bound to the King's Speech. In fucking 4 issues. That's incredible. 4 shitty films and 4 issues. That's so gangster. I don't mean shitty. I like the Jungle Book and I like King Kong, so.
I at least guess I kind of get what they're trying to do with it now in some ways. So anyway, Sabretooth, Clara, and Wolverine have been on the run, being hunted by Mr. Sinister, and also moving from place to place every time Wolverine freaks out.
Which is often from the way they explain it.
Yeah. So one night Sabretooth is away, and on purpose, Wolverine opens up to Clara, starts talking, and then they have sex. Like, literally it all just happens that fast. I mean, I guess they have kind of built up Clara's...
Rust! It's rushed!
I mean, at least they kind of did slowly build up Clara's attraction for Wolverine, but as far as them, like, shacking up, it all literally happens that fast, that simply. This is one of the most simple, basest applications of any of these kind of concepts I've ever seen. Sabretooth watches it all happen from the rooftop of an opposing building, so I guess he likes watching. Anyway, he's watching through the window. Sinister's dudes catch up to them and attack, and they do the same stupid thing again, where in the heat of the moment, which they just described in this issue, Wolverine accidentally stabs Clara. Sabretooth runs in to see all the carnage and tells Wolverine they must go get revenge on Sinister. As they run out, he reveals Clara was actually his sister.
And you see her wake up, so she's got healing factor of her own. And Jude, I have a theory. You know how you said you were talking about the dog Logan from the original Origins? I think that this Creed, he's not the Sabretooth that we know in the comics now. I think Claire is. She's in this last issue. She's going to get a turn-of-the-century sex change from Mr. Sinister, and she's actually the Sabretooth that we know and love in comic books today.
Wow, now this comic sure has become interesting.
Well, it'd be better than probably the end we're going to get.
Yeah, man. So obviously, Clara's not dead. We assume Sabretooth just wants to get Wolverine alone so we can try and kill him somehow. But you see Clara tries to tell Wolverine not to worry about stabbing her before she passes out. And Sabretooth purposely rushes Logan away before he can see her heal. I mean, he even has a line about not realize what's going on, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, as he looks back at Clara, and you see Creed kind of smiling at the end.
Yeah, it's the Kansas City Shuffle. It's the old con man maneuver.
What's a Kansas City Shuffle?
Kansas City Shuffle is when everybody looks right. You go left.
Never heard of it.
Well, it's not something people hear about.
Falls on deaf ears mostly.
It's a blindfold kickback type of a game called the Kansas City Shuffle. Whereas you look left, they fall right into a Kansas City Shuffle.
And Wolverine's so retarded in this book that he makes Wolverine Max look smart, so yeah, of course he's going to fall for it.
Yeah, shit for brains, Max. Your title has been usurped.
Dethroned for its stupidity. There's actually something that's dumber than your Wolverine.
So have we missed anything, or are we ready?
I'm ready.
Thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
And thumbs down. This is just such an awful comic. I mean, honestly, I don't get, does Wolverine really need a backstory bad enough to have this shit written about him? And skip it, man. This is awful. I can't believe when I go on Amazon and I look at my recommended stuff from the near future and I see that this is going to have a prestigious hardbound and stuff. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's garbage.
Yeah, thumbs down here. Every concept that they try and execute, even if they seem kind of okay, is just done in the most simplest, basest way possible. And I'm going to go with skip it because, quite honestly, I can't even see myself ever recommending the trade on this. Wrapping up the Wolverine segment, we'll go into Savage Wolverine number 16. So Wolverine's in a cell with the girl, waiting for the judge to show up in the morning and let him off for doing, well, nothing really, with a slap on the wrist. In the meantime, the bad guys get to the police station, and the one brother from this gang of kids Wolverine's trying to protect, he shows up with a gun that he found in the bad guy's car, ready to take matters into his own hands. Between the cops, the crooks, and the good guys, we have three gangs of people all pointing guns at each other. And you know how these things usually end, with bullets flying everywhere and a bunch of people shit dead. There's a lot of trading loyalties in all this mess too. The boy blasts Wolverine, I guess knowing he can take it, I think, hoping to make a deal with the bad guys to save his sister. One of the cops wants to sell them out to the bad guys for a bounty, but it's just a shit fest. While Wolverine's recovering from being gunned down, the girl makes herself a claw weapon with a keychain. I remember keys were a lot bigger, back then.
Yeah, skeleton keys, man. She makes herself a Wolverine claw and just the German guy whose face got cut up in the last issue. Yeah, she just straight gouges the shit out of it. I mean, this honestly should have been a Max title. I mean, there was just gore and blood, spit and ass everywhere in this issue. I mean, everybody gets shot, and it's gruesomely hand-painted and beautiful detail all over the place. So this was totally, if you like Wolverine gore horror, this is totally a perfect issue for you.
Yeah, man, the blood splatters are still amazing. Everything about this series is just so the opposite of Origin. Little badass girl is learning already. I like it. Wolverine gets up, after a couple minutes of healing. He collects the kids and tries to hightail it out of there, but man, I just love how bad these villains are. They shoot the brother again, making sure he won't survive, just out of spite. Because they can't get the girl because she's in front. They can't get Wolverine because they know shooting him doesn't do any good. And they murder every cop still alive, again, just out of spite. Just because they're having a shitty day. By the time Wolverine makes it back to the camp, we see the other sister has succumbed to her illness, leaving this issue to end on a real downer.
Right. I mean, like I said, Steinbeck. Totally. I mean, this is if Steinbeck really needed some money, and like had to go work for Marvel Comics. You know, this is like what he would have churned out. I gotta say, I'm enjoying it, man. Like, this is a Wolverine comic right here, son.
So at this point now, at the end of the issue, Wolverine still has 2 kids left to protect. 1 boy and 1 girl. And remember, this shit isn't his fault. I mean, it's not his fault that their dad was in a moonshine turf war with these evil pricks. He's just doing the best he can here to defend his friend's legacy and save fucking someone. I'm not sure exactly who's got the next story up, but I know coming soon, Gail Simone's gonna do a Wolverine Savage.
Fuck. Yeah, man. And you know that's gonna be well written.
Yeah, man. Gail Simone's gonna do a Wolverine Jubilee story taking place in the early days when Jubilee first joined the team.
Right on. Blue Team days.
So, I mean, that is totally something to look forward to. But in the meantime, on this issue, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Like I said, thumbs up. I mean, this really is like my style of Wolverine comic. I mean, like I said, there's this brutality, blood, true heroics from the character. You know, you don't have to see him being tortured physically. It's kind of more of like a mental thing with him actually like going out of his way to try to save these kids when nothing's working for him. And buy it. This is Wolverine comics. None of this other crap that comes out with his name on it is worth picking up besides this title.
I'm going to go thumbs up here. Everything they're executing, they're just executing perfectly. And I'm going to go with buy it. Once again, we talked about the visual art and what a great job he's also doing with that, you know, because that's kind of one of the things on Savage. Usually you write and draw it when you can. And just the blood splatters, the bone claws, the brutality of it, just really good. Okay, so next up is Uncanny Avengers number 18. We learned that the little teaser narrations that have been popping up every now and then in the beginning of issues were from Havoc. With Earth destroyed, most of mutant-kind has lived on their new utopia happily going along, while Havoc has been in hiding with Wasp and Beast and presumably a few other hero mutants, and the daughter Havoc has had with Wasp in the meantime. That's who he's been speaking to in the narrations. She was born human, and will always be hated and hunted in this world of Planet X, giving him all the more motivation to want to put things back how they were. The setup here is that same tachyon device from previous issues, it keeps acting as an interference, preventing any time travel from fucking with things. Most of the issue is Havoc and Wasp fighting to take it down, and when they eventually do, Wasp is captured by Magneto and his X-Force, who are dedicated to stopping Alex or anyone from ruining this new mutant homeworld. So once again, Magneto's got everything he wants, but he's still constantly kept up in this war to protect it.
Right, dude. And like one thing I really got to touch on first is how vivid was this art in this book? I mean, was it just not one of the most gorgeous things you've ever seen? I also like that it looked like a futuristic comic from like the 60s with the way the city looked and kind of like the retro costumes that they had on. I really dug the look of it, and I loved that most of it took place in like free fall. Almost the whole issue is them chasing Havoc and Wasp through the air, you know, like ever since like the first page he jumps off and Blob's chasing him and like he air carjacks Toad. They're just flying all over the place, man. It just was such a neat looking issue. And I mean, you really got this whole thing where they're getting to the tachyon thing and they're able to take it down, but Magneto is able to capture Wasp and Alex gets back and he's talking to his little baby girl, and then you get this big reveal. That's why I love this book, because it is never predictable and it's never cliche. You want to drop who ends up showing up from the future, not the people we expect, but...
Oh yeah, so get this. Havoc finds out from Beast that tachyons are still active from the device on the other side of time when this all first started happening. Except somehow, Kang shows up with his random group of villains and Thor at his side to presumably offer another solution.
And Kang's saying he's going to save mankind. We're going to see how far that one goes, but I mean, honestly, like, that's why I love this book. It keeps me on my toes. You can say what you want about Reminder, like, coming up with his own ideas for what to do with these characters and how to portray them and stuff like that, but, you know, he never just gives you a run-of-the-mill story. He has Exodus the Executioner destroy Earth in the third arc of his book, and then brings us this crazy Logan's Run X-Men comic, which is just phenomenal with just this momentous art and this crazy cliffhanger ending. I mean, like, this book is on fire again.
Yeah, man. Kang shows up with the old, I need to save it to rule it mentality.
Right, I mean, he's got the Godzilla thing, you know. Why should I let these other people mess with it? It's mine to mess with. I've messed with it for years. There's other people showing up that they think that they can just trash my Earth when I'm King the Conqueror. I don't give a shit about these Apocalypse twins. It's mine.
But it's very much like what's going on with Spurrier in X-Force right now, where he's kind of just playing in his own sandbox. Like, I've got no real sense of how this is going to relate to anything else, like X-Men wide later, even though this would have to be one more great motivation for Beast. Because, you know, Beast is, like, trying to save all humankind again, but look how that's going to work out for him later in Battle of the Atom, when they assassinate the first mutant president.
Right.
After he went through all this. But, all that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Oh, thumbs up. Like I said, the visual art's just so epic in it. I loved just the air chase, and buy this, man. Like, it's got great art, it's got an incredible look, and for people that like stuff like Age of Apocalypse and Age of X, where they show you a different take on what could have been with the X-Men, this is another one that's just really kind of on its own and really fun way of doing it.
I'm going to go with thumbs up. The visual art is spot on. The story references a lot of interesting ideas. And I'm going to go with buy it. It's got a lot of momentum again. It's kicking off a new arc, so to speak. We dealt with all Avengers for so long, and now we're kind of like almost all mutants. So as an X-Men fan, I think you'll totally be into it. Next up is Deadpool number 26. So it's one of those lost issue things they do with the retro themes. This one taking place in World War II-ish, and I mean all around time, really. And it starts with a Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos-based Hitler Reacts meme.
I forget what the movie's called, but like, go on YouTube and you see like all kinds of people take the scene from the movie and have Hitler freaking out about stuff. And like, yeah, they basically just draw out that scene from that film, but it's basically him wigging out about his entire Reich has been taken out by these 8 guys, and one of them's even named Dum Dum, and you can't kill this guy named Dum Dum, and I got a whole Reich. I mean, it was actually really hysterical.
Nick Fury has an eye patch! Just hit him in his blind spot! Oh my god!
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, as funny as you could make Hitler, they made him in this issue.
Yeah, man, the movie, by the way, is called Der Untergang, or Downfall.
Okay.
If anyone, like, for some reason feels like looking that up. But anyway, we've talked about visual art a lot over this episode so far. And I think this is another one where they really nailed it. They wanted a specific tone, they wanted a specific look, and they got it.
Yeah, it's Golden Age to the max, man. I mean, it looks so Golden Age, it's not even funny.
And you get to see Deadpool this way, you get to see Cable this way, which was a great bit of interest for me. I mean, I'm debating how much of the exact plot we have to go over here exactly, because, I mean, how do you think it ends? Like,
well, I mean, it's in the same vein, and it's even laughably a prequel to the Wakanda Vacation Adventure story, but this one actually has more of a plot than just, like, random weird panel after panel with really kind of groovy 60s art. This one, it has to do with Hitler and his goofy time machine and his crazy little mech thing that he makes, and, like, Deadpool having to take him down, and then Cable having to show up and yell at him for it. I mean, it's not like the most intelligent Deadpool issue, but God, was it just entertaining. I know that for sure.
Yeah, man. So basically they hang a lantern on the old trope of time assassins trying to kill Hitler. And, you know, another one of them, and, you know, Hitler jokes about how many of these guys have come after him, and he kicks the guy in the nuts. So another one of them fails, and Hitler gets his hands on a time machine and starts trying to wreak all havoc and trying to get revenge on Nick Fury. Deadpool kind of, like, takes a contract to intervene in all this, and, like, it all twists around, and, yeah, there's a lot of zany, but, okay, I was gonna say no there isn't, but yeah, no, there's a lot of zany in it, but like you said, there really is a lot more of a strongly structured story. I mean, for me, this was a really, really good read, because despite that insaneness that they kind of have, like, editor's notes, like, marking on throughout it, it really did have a kind of solid plot that I could get behind, especially with the visual art matching what the story was trying to do so well.
Right. I'm the exact same way. I just went ahead and just suspended my disbelief and, you know, just read it for what it was. You know what I mean?
And the jokes at the end totally worked for me. The Black Dahlia jokes, the suicide jokes. Like you see, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I remember reading this issue, and the last few pages literally did have me laughing out loud.
Which, I mean, like Fo saying, he's the master of making Wade be able to be written like that, so... That's how you say his name, right? Fo saying?
Posehn.
Posehn. Why can't you have an easier to pronounce name, dude? Come on.
Flying Brian Posehn. So yeah, do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
Oh, dude, for the art alone, thumbs up. They completely just nailed Golden Age Jack Kirby art. I mean, it was just phenomenal, and it was fun. And I'm gonna say buy it if you ever wanted to know what a Golden Age comic was like, and you want to read it in kind of a spoof manner. This is a perfect opportunity for you. Not to mention, it's just kind of a fun, goofy Deadpool comic. So
I'm gonna go thumbs up. I think this was my favorite of all the lost issue gimmick issues they've done so far. And I'm gonna go with buy it, because this one actually has a lot more story to it. And it's a precursor to even more insanity, so it's definitely a nice letdown before they build it all back up again. Okay, so as promised, we also checked in on Survive #1. So the Ultimate Universe post-Cataclysm, we start right now seeing, it's mostly about Tony giving a eulogy in a private superheroes-only funeral for Captain America. It's an obvious point, but I think it's worth mentioning how it's kind of cool in this Ultimate Universe, how you can have very big ramifications. Like, hey, the world almost ended, so someone's got to be responsible. You know, blame S.H.I.E.L.D., axe the organization. It's very real-worldy in that respect.
right.
Kitty's only in it for a couple of pages. Basically, the new president wants her to be a real-life active superhero. It's a very pro-mutant rights kind of thing, especially after her helping save the world. At this point, all the Ultimates are dead or disbanded. Like, we've lost Captain America, we've lost Thor. It's just Iron Man, and Iron Man is really taking it very hard. But a new team forms through this issue. In fact, they even interrupt the eulogy for one of them to stand up and say, we're gonna do it. And, you know, you've got, like, 2 spider people, you've got Kitty, there's gonna be, like, a whole bunch of new series spinning out of this. For some people, Ultimates just don't matter, because it's just, like, way too what-if, alternate universe-ish. But we had a lot of fun following Ultimate Comics X-Men, and I think we're going to keep following some of those characters as the Ultimates world continues post-Cataclysm.
Right. I mean, as long as they keep writing about that Kitty Pryde, and they get even a decent writer to do it, I'm going to be interested in what she's doing.
So yeah, we said we'd mention it just for that. So it's almost just kind of an honorable mention. Do we need to verdict it?
No.
Anyway, on to the previews. So the next week would be pretty short. In fact, almost non-existent if it weren't for Colin Bunn. The only real X-Men book we got is Magneto #2.
And it's going to be one hell of a read, man. I mean, I really like the way that this is going, and I really hope that, like, you were a bit wrong, and I really hope that he doesn't, like, jump right in and start fighting bigger villains. I hope that, like, it still has him, even though he knows that these people are out here doing this, he's still going to be detectiving around and, like, kicking under rocks and, you know, sticking shit through people's heads, you know, and, you know, doing the new Magneto stuff, you know, like, I really want to see a bit more of that in this series before, you know, you get to see a boss battle, so.
I do too, and it looks like we are actually going to get that. I mean, from what I've gleaned of the previews, we've got some flashback stuff going on. I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to get involved a little bit, investigating the, one of the recent murders and also the bank incident, or not the bank incident, and also the prison incident, or the police station incident. Magneto's apparently got a new band of groupies with freshly printed Magneto Was Right shirts.
Gangster. I want one.
Yeah, man, I wanted one since I first read it, and now they're at least coming back in style. And also, because we cover Deadpool now, we're going to do Deadpool vs. Carnage #1. Now, Carnage has had the whole Superior Carnage miniseries going on, which I actually thought was kind of stupid. But he also got a Superior Carnage Annual, which basically just reset Carnage, rebooted the character, and brought it all back to the normal shit you would expect. You don't have to deal with the metal legs, and it's just normal Cletus Cassidy, Carnage symbiote. He's going to be pulling some shit, and Deadpool's going to be like, this looks like a job for Deadpool.
It should be fun. Colin Bunn, he wrote Deadpool decent and Deadpool versus, or Night of the Living Deadpool, almost called it Deadpool versus Zombies. But, you know what I mean? Like, this is actually going to be like an interaction within the Marvel Universe. So I think it's going to be like better written, personally. You know, I think it's going to be a little bit of a better mini.
Yeah, these Deadpool stories kind of jump around, and I guess we're getting a little back more into like normal 616-ish type of stuff. I'm actually really looking forward to it because I'm actually kind of a big Carnage fan. I've always thought the character was interesting, but I don't think he gets to do enough in Spider-Man comics. So I'm really looking forward to some art with just Carnage, like, just letting loose and killing people, hopefully on panel. I mean, does that make me sick to want to see murder? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like, I seem to, you know, like, I love horror comics, but I was a big Evil Ernie fan. I like Cross, so I'm right there with you, bro.
Alright, cool, man, cool. And I think this makes a good mix. So Deadpool versus Carnage should be something to look forward to, at least for me.
Right, since they're both kind of homicidal by nature, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there's going to be a bit of gruesomeness to it.
And also, depending on how it goes, we might check in on a new What If series, What If Age of Ultron. Now, I bring that one up begrudgingly, like kind of not really wanting to get into it because I was not all about Age of Ultron.
It sucked.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I mentioned it at all was because Wolverine was heavily featured in that. So What If Age of Ultron might involve some X-Men, even though technically I think the idea behind What If Age of Ultron is going to be what if it was more about someone else besides Wolverine. So there's probably not really much of an X-Men connection.
Yeah, the best thing about Age of Ultron was the beginning of issue 3 with Moon Knight. That was like the only kind of part of it that I liked.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not necessarily in our mandate to track down every single appearance of any mutant anywhere, but I don't know, I thought I'd throw it out there, especially with the week so light on previews. Okay, so with that all being said, how about we spike the punch?
Yeah, man, spike it up.
Oh yeah! Spiking the punch is a segment where Johnny and I each bring up one non-X-Men related comic, and as always, Johnny Alpha leads the way.
Right, and I'm going to be going back to Deadly Class by Rick Remender from Image Comics again. Like, this third issue was the best thing I read this week. I mean, like, I name drop a couple things that I found fun that I also read. I like the Silver Surfer #1. I really like Mike Allred's art in that. It really shined. I really like that Silver Age style. And the all-new Ghost Rider was kind of a neat little book that I wish I could have spiked with, but it just wasn't. It didn't deliver this first issue. So I'm going with Deadly Class #3, which I really loved because just how gruesome this comic is. Basically, you start, you know, like you remember the last book ended with our hero, our anti-hero, and this OG gangster kid going on a homework assignment, which involves them killing a bum that deserves it, basically. They go on this trek because he knows where this perfect homeless creep lives under the Bay Bridge, so they take this kind of trek, and, like, you really get to know the characters, and you get to, like, really kind of feel the hype from this homeboy character. You know, he really puts it on thick, telling them about, like, how he killed 5 OGs that smoked his dad and stuff like that, and, like, how hard he is and shit. You know, and the whole time, the main character is kind of really giving him shit and kind of, like, really letting him know that he's not buying it for the most part. And then they get down to it. They go and they talk to the guy, one guy's friend, and, like, he buys some Quaaludes off of him, and, like...
Ludes, man. Fucking Ludes, man. Call up the Ludes, dude. Fucking Ludes.
The dude tells him where the guy's at, and they got this old psycho vet cornered. The homeboy pulls out his gun, but he can't do it, man. He drops to his knees, and, like, they let him run away, and he pretty much lets out the bag that, like, he's faking the funk, dude. When his dad got killed in front of him, he just sat there and shit his pants, and his uncle came in, shot the 5 guys, and then gave him the gun so he could get the street cred and become an OG so he could avenge his father type of thing. It was kind of a neat little experience, and it kind of really made, like, so that this kid's going to actually have one friend in this thing. So they kind of go back to the one dude's friend, and they're, like, hanging out with him, and they're trying to talk to him and see if there's any other kind of, like, evil-ass bums there. And, like, the one dude's bum friend, he's also a non-vet. He starts telling him his story, and it's like a really sob story, and it's kind of a really... You know, you kind of really feel bad for this guy. And the one kid, he gets up and he's taking a leak. And then, like, all of a sudden you see a shadow come behind the bum, and you just see him smoke dude in the head with the pipe. And that's kind of where it ends. It's really vicious. It's really brutal. but you can kind of, with the story that the guy's telling, you can kind of see how a psycho like this kid is will try to make it out to be kind of a mercy killing type of thing in the next issue. So it kind of really fits to where like they're really building this character up. This kid that his ultimate goal is where he gets to the point where he's good enough to kill Ronald Reagan. I mean, we're not dealing with like the sharpest tool in the shed with this title either. So I really, really like where this title's going, even though it's as vicious as a motherfucker. I don't know any other comics that are this brutal, aside from stuff that comes out at Avatar Press.
Ludes, man. Fucking Ludes. What is this, the 70s?
Well, the book takes place in 87.
Dude, though, fucking, like, my little joke aside, in the past, like, sometimes it's like, great spiking, man, great job, or whatever, but, like, Jesus Christ, if this wasn't one of the best spikings ever, I kid you not, fucking, from the beginning, man, I love the play on morality. The whole, like, well, morality only works if everybody does it. But if there's that one asshole who doesn't play by the rules, and there always is, well, then you have to be ready to play by different rules, or no rules at all. The whole thing is like, it's like this scathing deconstruction of humanity. Like, of how human interactions work. Like, he talks about how, like, politeness is just a way that people lie to each other to get what they want from each other. He takes it on this, like, wildly philosophical ride, man, but I mean, you're almost kind of like nodding your head in agreement, like, yeah.
Right. And I mean, like, the funny thing is, it's like, he's like, at the same time, he's telling the dude that he wants to be friends with him, while he's explaining to him that, like, yeah, this is how I view friendship, and, like, and I'm being civil with you because, yeah, and then the black dude's just like, so you want to be my friend so you can get something from me? And he's like, well, yeah, dude, I want protection, I don't want to be messed with by the other kids, and if I'm friends with you, that's, you're probably one of the best people to, like, have in a corner, type of thing, and it was really, really well done, and I like the kind of weird little details that they threw in, like the Homeboy kids, Oakland Raiders windbreaker. I mean, if you were around in the 80s and you knew any Homeboys, man, that was actually, like, real stuff that they would wear and stuff, so, like, they're really nailing it with this.
Yeah, it was almost kind of something that passed for colors back in the day. Like, he joked about the Crips and Bloods earlier, where there was, like, the Raiders gear or whatever. And I love the hilarious intro. It's like the issue starts off, it's fast-paced with roof jumping and stuff, which is, of course, a classic comic book component. They even joke about, Batman jumps roofs so much easier, blah, blah, blah. And after barely making it out alive, the dude just kind of jokes, like, yeah, I still want my $2 on that bet. And then, like, bam, intro credits. It's got this great energy to it, man. Like, it's a great treat of momentum.
Right. And I mean, like, honestly, I like Rick Remender's Marvel work. He really is one of the kind of guys that can tackle it and write these characters well, but it'll never be as good as his character-owned stuff like this. I mean, like, this is where the kind of stuff he really sings, that books like this and Last Days of American Crime, I mean, like, he really can just get into these brutal stories and kind of tell you how criminals think in a way that's not like everything else that you've read that's Sin City-esque or even trying to be noir, because like this, I mean, it might have kind of neo-noir elements, but it's so far removed from anything else noir that's out there that, this thing is really on a level of its own. It's actually kind of, the only thing that I kind of draw parallels to it with is a couple animes that are about, like, schools for assassins or schools for, like, wizards and stuff that I've watched.
Yeah, man, totally. And the Nam vet, who talks about how, he torched villages as a soldier and stuff like that, and he talks about, like, what killing has done to him, personally. And it's such a great metaphor for the kids in this story. Or maybe even not a metaphor, but like a foil to show another side. Poor little G, like, he doesn't even want to be bad. He just wants to be thought of as bad. And he's crying about his dad didn't want this for him. And then when dude comes around and just, like, decides, like, well, we've got to fucking kill someone, because I'm not going to be left to fucking rot in some alley. And he takes that piece of wood and just beats this guy to death. And even that, you almost kind of see coming, because you're kind of like, well, the dude's got to kill someone. They've got a hobo right here, and they've kind of got an excuse to kill him, because he's kind of confessed to crimes. But even if you kind of see it coming, it doesn't make it any less rewarding.
Or impactful. I wouldn't say rewarding. I'd say, like, impactful is the term I'd use. But, yeah, it really – because, like, honestly, like, they had to do it. Otherwise, they'd have to leave the school and be hunted. There was stipulations to this. There's no just, like, failure. You either did it or you got killed yourself.
And the greatest compliment that I can give to this issue which I think really drives home how much I fucking enjoyed it. After this issue, I was done, man. Like, after he kills the bum, I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm cool. Let me digest all this. Like, this is a perfect place for the issue to end. I remember thinking, like, okay, I hope it stops here. Like, I hope it's done. Like, I wanted it to be over. I'm like, you fed me. I'm full. That was enough. Let this all sink in.
Right. And I mean, like, the next issue looks like it's going to be probably fucking crazy because they go into Vegas in it from what the cover looks like. So, yeah, there's more insanity in store for the cast of Deadly Class. But, you know, this one really ended it where it needed to. It really didn't leave you hanging. It almost is probably pretty much what I would almost call a perfect issue.
And I'm so glad you spiked with it because, I mean, you really did get me on board when you spiked with issue 2 previously. And you sure do know how to, like, spike with the same comic. Like, you know which ones to keep up with. But, there was almost a part of me that, like, I mean, I hadn't read it yet until you told me you're going to spike with it. And I'm like, okay, well, no, I gotta read it. But I could kind of see where, like, maybe I might not have read it, and maybe I might have lost track of the series. But there's no fucking way I'm going to lose track of this series now, man. And for me this week, I've brought to the table Avengers Assemble number 25. Now, I'm almost a little bit cheating because it does have Wolverine in the cover, even though he's, like, only, like, vaguely, remotely associated with the story. That was a little bit kind of part of my draw. But this issue, man, so apparently this is the last issue. It's just a real damn shame. And you read the afterword again, and they say something that we've also touched on before in this issue. They say that the series reached its mandate, which, I mean, technically the only reason Avengers Assemble ever existed was because they wanted to have an Avengers comic that had everyone who appeared in the movie come out when the movie first came out. You know, they wanted an Avengers comic with Thor, Cap, Iron Man, Hulk, Hawkeye, Widow. Like, that's why this comic existed. So, I mean, technically it had passed its mandate a long time ago.
And yeah, I believe it more with this title than, say, A plus X, because this ran 25 issues, and that ain't bad, especially for, you know, something that's, I don't know, it's always kind of seen as a lesser Avengers book. I like the two Jonathan well, actually, I like the one Jonathan Hickman regular Avengers book slightly better than this, but just has always been one hell of a fun book. I really like the way that it's developed characters like Captain Marvel and Spider-Woman and stuff, kind of some of the characters that they don't really get too much play in the Hickman book that I like. So this one was kind of almost a fun little thing where you get to see the older characters that, you know, that you're more used to.
Well, as far as the characters that make it up, I mean, at least as far as this last arc, which is what I really got into, you've got Captain America, you've got Iron Man, you've got Hulk, then you've got Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, Wolverine, Shang-Chi, like, and of course it's Iron Man, like, in this kind of darker looking armor, and it's Hulk with wearing armor, so visually I think these characters all tie into each other really well. But the whole arc has really been about Aranya, the Spider-Girl, and her kind of coming of age through all this.
And them all kind of working to turn her into, like, an official hero, where she's not kind of just like a teen sidekick or a half-assed anymore. She's, like, actually going to be kind of a legit hero after this.
And it is an interesting setup, because you've got this AIM group of scientists who are working in America with diplomatic immunity, but ironically, AIM has a villain that they need protection from the Avengers, which was a funny scene where AIM is like, what the fuck, we're getting an alert. We're getting alert from the Avengers? Like, why are the Avengers alerting us? We should be alerted about them, if anything.
That and Cap's rundown on their diplomatic immunity and the certain things that negated so they could just attack on sight type of things. It kind of really cracked me up.
But yeah, so it's all about Aranya trying to save her teacher who had been Terrigen Mist cocooned in humanity, Allah. And you see throughout this issue, she puts together everything she's learned over the past issues. Like, you see her wearing her more Wolverine-inspired costume, but with less threads. You see that she's got a gas mask, just in case, and it helps her out. But you see, like, you know, from what she learned from Iron Man, she's also done her homework on the villain. She puts everything together to become a complete superhero. And it's almost kind of like with Miss Marvel, that perfect coming-of-age story where a young hero learns their powers, learns this world, and through them, we can discover our joy for it all over again as we take a hero's journey with them. Which I think is really all the more reason to introduce more heroes and more younger heroes and let them take over from the old guard.
Yeah, I'm down. I mean, like, I was kind of almost ready for that when they introduced these characters the first time around, when Marvel Next was happening in the 2000s with books like NYX and Aranya and the new Scorpion character and the female Nomad and stuff from the other timeline. I really liked those, and they were kind of bringing them around to almost have like their own team. They kind of launched the Allies, and I guess nobody read it, which really pissed me off because I was really down for it, but whatever. But this looks like it's finally going to take off with some of these characters, and it should, man. And like this issue in particular, it was a lot of fun. You had a lot of good jokes about how Hawkeye's a broke ass, and he almost gets a 12-pack from Wolverine, but Ranya beats him into the room because she's got spider powers. He had to do the Tarzan thing with his bow and arrow, and dude, it was just really, really well put together, really clever, and it was done all ages. You know what I mean? It wasn't brutal. It wasn't trying to be too intelligent. You know what I mean? Like, this is definitely a comic book that you could go ahead and let, you know, your little cousin read or your little brother read without like having to worry about him picking something up. You know, it's a fun, great little comic that I'm really sad to see go.
Yeah, man, which is all the more reason why it's fucking stupid to cancel it. I mean, to have such a totally accessible comic book, and one that's, you know, named after a cartoon, technically, which is also what draws a lot of kids into it, and you've called it fun a couple times, and that's really one of the main reasons I spiked with it, because this issue is just so much fun. It's got that perfect comic book tone to it.
Right. I mean, I don't want to, like, when I said that you could let a kid read it, I'm not trying to say that it's, like, stupid and kiddie. I mean, it's still, like, you know, somebody our age can pick it up and, like, be able to read it, too. But, you know, it's just, I guess innocent's the right word, you know what I mean? It's heroes being heroic at their best, you know what I mean? There's no anti-hero sentiment going on, or if there is, it's just a slight undertone with the Wolverine injection of her character and stuff like that, which, you know, doesn't permeate because, like you said, she's taken from what she's learned from everybody, and she even gets herself a smartphone and finds out that, you know, Captain America can text, but she has to promise not to tell anybody. I mean, and even it's so cute, you know what I mean? And then I got to the Kelly Sue DeConnick's little poem, like the Night Avengers thing, and I was just like, I read it and I just was like, it was so foreboding that I was like, it's over, isn't it? And I went online and I found out it wasn't. I was just like, it bummed me the hell out, man. I'm like, you motherfucker. If it really was canceled because a bunch of damn savages in this world didn't read it, man, like, they're missing out. You know what? And there's no excuse. This was a great little comic. If it did run its course and they were done with it, fine. That's one thing. But like, if I find out that it was actually canceled, you know, I'm gonna have a rant.
So that's my Spike the Punch for the week. Avengers Assemble number 25.
It's a damn good one, even though it's kind of a sad one because it's the last issue. I still loved reading it. I still read it anyways before you told me it was your Spike, so, you know, it was just easy for me anyways.
So to end the episode for the week, we'll go into our final segments. Final segments are going to start with the sexiest moment of the week. Johnny Alpha, you'll lead us off, right?
Right, and my sexiest moment is from A+X, and it's going to have to be Tempest. She was very, very well drawn in that book. Probably even better than she's ever drawn in Uncanny. And I really just liked her attitude with Doctor Strange. It was hot.
Oh my.
Yeah, man, I don't think you can ever go wrong with picking Tempest, especially with her skirt.
Yeah, with their little battle dress, that thing's hot.
I've got to give a little love to Warbird in Amazing X-Men number 5. She has a very sexed up costume, and they strike her in two very nice poses to show it off.
I love that. Was the one thing I did like is that Bamf just checking out her ass in that one panel too. I was all happy just looking at it. Thought that was really kind of a nice little panel that Ed McGuinness gave us.
Yeah, man, they give you a nice little bending ass shot, and then they focus the nice shot on the kind of cleavage that her shirt allows, which is a little bit kind of like the Magic / Emma Frost costume, but I mean, whatever, it's working, and it lets them show a well-built female with a lot of cleavage, and like I've always said, I never apologize for enjoying that. And we'll end on a Too Cool for School segment.
You think you're too cool for school?
Johnny Alpha, who did you think was too cool for school this week?
This is from Uncanny Avengers, and it's going to have to be when Havoc air carjacks Toad during the free fall fight scene, chase scene. That was just too cool looking, and that was too cool for school.
Not a bad choice there. For me, I'm going to go with young Cyclops, you were literally too cool for school. Since you left the school to go fly the cosmos with your dad. And I gotta give you credit for how you handled it with Jean. Don't let a girl determine your everything. It's such a bad trope, in fiction and in real life. Sure, we might all want that kind of strong, destined feeling romance that completes us and compels us to always follow someone else around. But another word for that is whipped. So thank you, Cyclops, for being too cool for all that shit and actually having some goals of your own. Thank you to psn-radio.com for sponsoring Too Cool for School. And fuck you to Comic Booked, which we will no longer be featured on. You can you can still always find us on Facebook.com/AllAboutX-Men Comics Podcast. And of course, you can hear us whenever you decide to hit play. So until you hit play, we'll see you next time.